right, welcome back, sports fans. Here for our second episode of the night of Off the Cuff with Monte and Geoff. Again, before we get into it, if you're enjoying this, go ahead and hit the like button below. You can subscribe and as well hit the little bell button there. That'll let you know when we upload new content.
Even if you're not enjoying it, still do that.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because it doesn't hurt anybody. It makes us feel better about ourselves,
And we need that.
We have a Stuart Smalley moment, Gosh darn it, people like us. Anyway, this episode is going to be kind of a hodgepodge of a bunch of different things. Some of it local, some of it national. I'm going to kick it over to Monty. He's our resident expert on all things wrestling. So, Monty, what you got?
Well, we just got back from state wrestling this last weekend, and it was awesome, as it always is. Ravenna finished in, I want to say, 35th place with 20 points, and they had one medalist in Tommy Pisotta, or I should say Thomas Pisotta. He doesn't like to be called Tommy.
And be careful, he'll give you a big
I hope Tommy, if you're watching, apologies. And Ansley Litchfield, they sent 3 guys down there, and one guy got injured in his first match, and the other 2 guys, they had decent meets, but they didn't do what Pleasanton did. Pleasanton had a fantastic meet. They ended up in 6th place overall as a team, with 1 champion and 1 runner-up.
Yep.
So kudos to Pleasanton Wrestling. They had a fantastic meet.
And then they had a sixth place medalist, I
Yes,
think?
another 6th place medalist too, at heavyweight, yes.
Yeah, so
Their champion was Luke Pulaski. You may have heard that name before.
Was it Luke or Chase?
I'm sorry, Chase. Jeez, I get those
Luke,
mixed up.
But,
Chase.
But both Pulaskis were down there. So
yes, both were down there, and both got a win. Actually, the younger Pulaski also got a win. But Chase won it all.
yeah, and that was an exciting match in the finals, too.
It was.
Yeah.
He got a takedown in the last couple seconds of the match, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was close, though.
It was against the Hal Dodge kid, and he was tough.
Yeah, it was a very good match.
I wanted to tell you, it was the first time I'd seen that little, I don't know how you say his name.
Crepola?
Crepola sounds right,
Crepola? Yeah.
I seen him in the semifinals, and that kid is a stud, man. He qualified for the finals by beating a Thayer Central, Thayer Central kid, who's tough. And then the opposite match, the other semifinal, was one of the best matches I've seen in the state tournament. It was a kid from, I forget where he's from now, Hemingford? Hemingford. And he was going against Nolan Osborne from Twin Loop.
Oh,
and that match was 0-0 after 3 periods.
Wow.
Which you hardly ever see something like that. And then the next period in overtime was also scoreless. And so they were in the what they call sudden death overtime, and the Hemingford kid won it on a penalty point.
Wow.
There was no actual points scored by either wrestlers. It was a penalty point. It was
match.
a 1-0 win for that kid.
Wow.
And that was the Hemingford kid that beat Crepola in the final.
Yeah, and that was a good match too.
I didn't see it actually. I was in transit, but yeah.
Yep. I have to say, I spent a whole Saturday afternoon watching wrestling.
I am impressed by that.
You should be.
That
you should be.
Is cool.
That's about the most impressive thing about me here lately. But yeah, I did. I sat down and watched the whole finals. Lots of really good matches.
Oh,
yes, lots of really good matches.
And with the girls wrestling, I can't say enough how impressed I am by the girls wrestling. And this is going to probably sound stupid, but anybody that knows women knows that you don't know what they weigh, okay? And what is wrestling? You've got to weigh in, and everybody that watches it knows what you weigh.
Yep.
So for them to be subjected to that and allow that to happen, I salute them, because I'm sure that's not an easy thing to do. Not saying anything bad, but just...
So do you think the guy that does the weigh-in, does he look at him when he's weighing him and he's like,
I'm going to guess.
I'm going to say that this scale weighs heavy. And you weigh...
Yeah, with every single one.
Every single one.
It avoids a lot of confrontation like that, I'm sure.
Exactly.
But it may be a woman weighing him too. I don't know.
That's also true. Which I don't know. Is that worse?
It might be.
It might be worse.
She'd probably be less sympathetic, I'm guessing.
Probably true. But yeah, that was exciting. And I think the state tournament as a whole was a success from the standpoint of a lot of good wrestling, and
it was. There was a few bad things, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yep. Had a 4-time state champion in that Garrett Grice from Bellevue East.
Yep.
And after he won, he did actually thank the whole wrestling community, which I thought was a class act. For,
he is a class act
for that. So yeah, again, it was quite a Saturday.
And there was one. I don't know if you heard about this or not, but there was a kid from Class A who won heavyweight, and they were everybody was talking before the meet that if he won it, he'd be the first freshman to ever win heavyweight at state wrestling. It turns out that's not true.
Oh yeah.
In 70 or 71, there was a kid from, it was a small town. I want to say Nelson. I'm not sure I got the town right, but he won as a freshman heavyweight as well. But it was Class D.
That's been a long time though, and
it has.
And actually, the kid that Tyson Terry already, I believe, holds an offer from Nebraska football. So that's pretty cool. You know what they say? They say wrestlers make great offensive linemen. So
and we want this guy.
That's exactly right. So yeah, so I would say from the standpoint of a state wrestling meet, I think that's pretty awesome.
Indeed. Well, as you all know though, we also have basketball stuff going on right now. Unfortunately, both Ravenna and Pleasanton boys are done for the year. They got beat in earlier games in sub-districts. But tonight, Ansley Litchfield won their sub-district game in a double overtime match against SEM, which I happened to be at. So that was a very cool game.
Yeah.
It was bad for SEM because 3 of their starters fouled out by the overtime. Or it was during the overtime period. So who knows what would have happened if they would have been in there.
Right.
But they play a very aggressive brand of defense.
Yeah.
And so they're going to get fouls at times.
Yes. Well, but you know what? When it comes to this time of year, you're going to have those situations happen. You might have injuries. You might have foul trouble.
Sure.
And it's the next guy up. So.
And it was a great environment there. It was full house. It was great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to Ansley Litchfield punching their ticket to the district finals. Hopefully we see them advance on and make it to state. I know that the girls' district finals are going to be coming up here this week as well. Probably not going to talk too much about those tonight.
No, we can talk about that more in our next episode or
Yes.
next week.
The next,
I should say,
yeah, in our
see
next,
how they do.
Yeah, exactly. So,
But just so you know, the Ravenna girls are in a district final on Friday.
Yes.
Against Hartington CC.
Yes, and they go to Columbus Lakeview, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep. So good luck to the Blue Jay ladies.
Can anybody tell me how to get to Columbus Lakeview? I've never been there before.
I have been, but I couldn't tell you how to get there. I could probably drive you around Columbus a long time and
that would work.
Maybe find it. Oh well, he'll make it
at
least by halftime. But anyway, yeah. So we got basketball. Season's winding down or has ended for some teams. Finished up the state wrestling meet. The state wrestling meet brought about, while there was a lot of good, I don't want this to sound like there wasn't a lot of good, there were also some things that were maybe not up to par. And this is kind of where we're bringing back, I should say, and not even by popular request, we're bringing back our You Didn't Ask segment of our show. And again, like I said, I did watch the whole finals on TV on Saturday, and while I appreciated the tightness of the matches and the enthusiasm and the athleticism of these competitors, there was one thing that really stuck in my craw, and it actually made it to the state level from a NSAA standpoint, in that the assistant director of the state NSAA sent out a letter to all ADs and wrestling coaches concerning sportsmanship throughout the meet, not just in the finals.
Right.
They said that there was an unprecedented number of points taken away, penalties called, I guess you would say, for poor sportsmanship by the players or by the wrestlers and by coaches. But there were also some incidents, I understand, with some fans maybe getting a little unruly. And I don't like to see that. There were a couple wrestlers and it wasn't I shouldn't say it wasn't any one team. There were a couple teams that seemed to be worse than others, making some gestures, making some, and I don't care. You and I had talked, Monty, about a good portion of these wrestlers did backflips after they won.
Yeah,
you know what? I don't really have a problem with that. No. It's a celebration. It shows off their athleticism. I saw a 220-pound kid do that's impressive.
It is.
But by the same token, there were some instances where I felt that it was more of a showing up your opponent, and I did not like that at all.
That's never appropriate, folks. Never.
Yeah, and so I don't know. That's, like I said, it's my you didn't ask moment. You don't really care necessarily what my opinion is, but I do know that from some of the things that I saw, if they would have happened in a basketball game, baseball game, football game, there would have been probably some severe penalties, maybe even some ejections. I also understand, and this is something that I'm learning again from the wrestling standpoint. It's a high intensity sport. I mean, you're
Yes.
in close proximity for 6 minutes, more than 6 minutes sometimes.
It can be, yeah.
And there are, I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster for these kids, and I can understand how your emotions might get the best of you. My problem is it seemed like some of these actions were kind of a pre-planned, a premeditated. You know, they knew if I win, this is what I'm gonna do.
Sure, and I'm sure that's the case. Yeah.
One of them was a kid acting like he was yawning, like the match bored him, even though the match itself was.
It was a very tight match.
It was. It wasn't, and he kind of came in at the end and won it. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like he just dominated the match, and that kind of struck me wrong. So I guess, like I said, that's my you didn't ask moment, and maybe you give your perspective on it, Monty. Just because, like
Well-
you said, I'm not. It's kind of a new arena for me from that
Sure.
standpoint.
You know, I've respected wrestlers so much over the years. I've been covering wrestling now for over 20 years, and it's always amazed me how these guys can go out on the mat and battle and come out of it and shake hands and move on. That's for some of those, it's very difficult because you don't get that good without having a very competitive nature. And if you lose and you're that competitive, it's not always easy to take. Not that poor behavior is an excuse after you lose. But I will say this. I've seen a kid do a one finger shush after a match, and then I've seen that one where he did this to his mouth and to shush the crowd.
Yeah.
I personally kind of find that funny.
Yeah. Right.
I'm trying to decide, is that bad sportsmanship or not? In some cases, yes. I guess it depends on the situation. But one thing that I would say is demeaning your opponent or having fans demean an opponent is never a good thing. Never, ever a good thing. And I've seen some of that this weekend. So I hope I never see it again, actually.
Yeah. It's just an unfortunate thing, and I hope there will be other times that we can go about talking about sportsmanship, and I know that we have some plans for maybe having an episode or something along those lines. I just think from the standpoint of when you're out there on the court, when you're out there on the mat, when you're representing your school and your community, you have little eyes looking at you the whole time.
Yes.
Whether you realize it or not, there are kids that look up to you from your school, from other schools. And the wrestler that made the one motion, I think he was unbeaten on the air. He was a very good wrestler. Don't get me wrong.
Was he? I wasn't sure.
I think he was unbeaten.
Yeah.
So don't think for a moment that he hadn't put in the work and hadn't done those things. I just think that it takes away from the good that they have done when you do something like that.
You're probably
and
right.
so that's just my you didn't ask for the week. And that's going to lead us into another segment, but we're going to take a real quick break, and then we'll come back and see where You Didn't Ask leads us on.
All right.
All right.
See you next time, guys.
Signing off.